Hey guys, it's Spaces Sims, and we are back with more Paradigm Paradox, continuing Yukonami's route. Now we're full on into it, so, yeah, just popping outside Theta, going to town with our new boyfriend. Anyway, the vector of life is the life for me. I'm not sorry, and you're welcome. I braced myself and left Theta alongside Yukonami. My sense of unease grew. Yukonami said Moravia will save Lizzie if we wait here. Is she actually going to come? I made up my own mind to go with them, but my decision was mostly driven by fear. I couldn't let myself feel totally okay with it. And what's all this about people turning into vectors after being attacked by one? Is that a thing that's really happening?
And kind of suspected as much.
Suspected what?
Then humans are totally weak.
I stiffened at his remark, but he continued in the airy tone of someone making pleasant small talk.
You've got to transform to leave the colony. Talk about a huge pain in the butt.
Of course, he was referring to how I'd shifted before we left Theta. It's not that inconvenient when you consider how normal people need to put on an entire protective suit just to go outside. But if Yukonami didn't even need to transform, I could see why he'd consider it a hassle. Okay, well, compared to what you can do, it's a bit of a pain. You can just step outside, right?
That's right. Now you're thinking about how awesome I am, right? You are. Admit it.
Whoa, he's just lit right up, didn't he? Feeling pressured to agree, I nodded. Sure, you're awesome, I guess. He doesn't get sarcasm.
You guess? Come on, is that all?
Now he seems unsure of himself. He's got some pretty extreme mood swings going on. It wouldn't be a good idea to offend him, and to be honest, he was kind of awesome. Yeah, you're really something, Yukonami. Frankly, I'm blown away by how cool you are. I sure can't do what you can do. In fact, I don't think I know anyone who's like you, so yeah, I think you're pretty amazing. My compliment rang hollow in my own ears, but I waited to see how Yukonami would react.
I know, right? I'm amazing!
Yeah, you knew he was going to fall for it, because he's a bit of a dumbass. Oh, well, at least he thought that sounded sincere. Was he dense or simply innocent? I wasn't sure how to handle him. He seemed like a different person than the one I fought. Was he dense or innocent? No, he's a little dense. I feel like he's a little bit of an idiot. Yukonami suddenly spotted something and waved.
Near here! Hey! Over here!
I looked over in the direction he was waving and saw Moravia with Rio. They were heading toward us.
Rio is part of the bad guys?
What? Okay. Did you, all for a hot second go, are you an idiot? Did you forget that? No, I know. Please tell me was my acting convincing? It was obvious before we even started the game because of the two good guys, two bad guys thing. So it's yeah, I don't think they were ever hiding it. And then also, they showed him in shadow meeting with Moravia, but it was fucking obvious. You know what I mean? So, even if you knew nothing about the game, from the very beginning, they've kind of showed him that, so. I realized Rio was carrying Lizzie in his arms and dashed over to meet them. Oh, so she hasn't transformed yet. Lizzie, hang in there! Lizzie's eyes stayed shut. She didn't respond at all. Her face was sickly pale like a corpse's. When I saw how bad off Lizzie was, I began to panic. I thought she might not wake up ever again. I like how she's like, oh my god, Liz! Wait a minute, what are you doing here? Is she gonna realize that Rio's here? Lizzie...
Relax. She's just heavily sedated.
Sedated? Does that mean she got medical treatment? It does seem like her wounds are dressed. I was relieved, but something about the picture still didn't seem quite right. Okay, wait, it's just... She's still trying to do the math. Okay? She's just on a very, 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 very fucking old calculator here. Why is Rio here, though? Doesn't make any sense for him to be working with Moravia. She's the enemy. Well, it's not like me being here makes a whole lot of sense either. Well, at least she's got that going for her. No, there's definitely something fishy about Rio. Why are you here, Rio?
As sharp as a wet noodle, aren't you?
you now. Listen. Listen! Tokyo's still my favorite, but you know what, sir? You just earned points for that. Because, like, dude, I mean, you got glasses, so sure. But, like, you literally just insulted the fuck out of me. Seriously, someone take me to the hospital. Oh my god. Damn. She really is sharp as a wet noodle. Wait, why are you here? Like, he's like, that seriously took you 5 minutes to figure that out? Rio rolled his eyes at my reaction to his presence. I mean, you look so comfortable around Moravia. Moravia grinned at this and lightly slapped Rio on the back. Hear that? Comfortable, she says. Nice, eh?
What's nice about it? She's talking like I'm some kind of background prop that's not supposed to stick out.
I hurriedly jumped in as Rio hissed at Moravia. I mean... To be fair, for a main character, you kind of are a background prop that doesn't stick out very much. I like the fact that he's slightly salty about it. He's like, what's like she doesn't even know I exist. Sir, I'm a teenage girl and you're an adult. That's not what I was implying. Rio wasn't giving off the vibes of an enemy. He was just negative, period. I shrugged it off and turned to Moravia. I bowed my head to her respectfully. Moravia, thanks so much for rescuing Lizzie. Don't mention it. That's when I realized Moravia wasn't wearing protective gear either. She and Yukonami really were unusual. I like the fact that we really are a wet fucking noodle. I like that Rio just called us that. We're like, oh my god, Lizzie, but... Staring at him. 5 minutes later, wait, Rio, what are you doing here? God, you're an idiot. And then we're like, huh, Moravia didn't have to wear protective gear either. Alright. Doesn't occur that maybe she's a magical girl like us? Duh? Like, you'd think that would be obvious. Like, I get it, she does not know at this point that any of them are magical, that they're boys that turn into girls, so I get that. But... she knows that I have to transform into my magical girl form in order to be able to leave the colony. Wow, Moravia is magical. She's like Yukonami and doesn't have to. Did you not stop and think that maybe she's a magical girl? Like, I get, like, she's seen Yukonami when we're battling transform into, like, a sort of half-person, half-vector monster thing, right? Same with Hyuga. They have horns and things, so they're like they're special cases. She's never seen Moravia do that, so you'd think her logic would be like, wait, are you like a magical girl like me? Because, like, Moravia kicked our ass. We have magical girl powers. Do you think any normal bitch could kick your ass? I'm just saying. But wait, Rio, do you have a protective suit? You can't be outside without... Actually, that is the good... Okay, that's where I came in as the wet noodle. She's like, wait, Rio... You know, actually, you're right. That I never noticed. Okay. That's... So him calling me as sharp as a wet noodle is spot on. Because I'm over here making fun of her like, you didn't notice Rio? You don't think that Moravia's a magical girl? And then she's like, Rio's not wearing a suit. And I'm like, oh, yeah, you know what? You're right, he isn't. Look, there's some things that happen in this game that make no sense, and you're like, we're just gonna not... Okay, whatever. So, like, this is the one time I was like, I'm just gonna... Okay. Okay, I'm a wet noodle today.
I'm fine. Don't worry about it.
So interesting. Okay, so Rio's got some secrets. Don't worry about it? But isn't Rio a regular human being? Or is he secretly a vector too? Right? They're doing experiment. Well, he's probably got a researcher, so he's got something. He may not be able to transform like Yukonami and Hyuga. Does he have a magical girl form? Oh my god, I hope he does. Like, Hyuga and Yukonami having, like, their vector kind of form is like, that's not as fun as the magical girls! I want all my boys to turn into cute girls. I don't know why, I just like it. It's more fun. He sure seems to be on good terms with the vectors, so it's certainly possible, but...
Hey, can we get moving already?
Yukonami seemed bored with the conversation. Let's get away from here. We can go over the specifics later. Yeah, you're right. You know, I mean, I gotta be honest, Yukonami sprites are pretty good. Like, he's got some goofy, cutesy ones, but, like, some of them like this one, like, that one's pretty. Like, his pouty, he's got, like, pretty eyes here, you know? If we kept hanging around the outer wall, someone was bound to spot us sooner or later. I obediently followed Moravia and the others as we moved away from Theta. We walked across the sprawling wasteland for what felt like hours. The scenery was exactly the same, no matter where you looked. I soon lost my bearings. Come to think of it, where are we going? I just followed without asking questions. Stop it, Bird. Although Rio couldn't be a magical girl because he'd have to transform, so he's got to be, like, something else. He's either partially like a vector like our other boys, or since he's a researcher, he's got something else. Like, you know what I mean? Like, oh, no, stop, Bird. Do not attack my computer. You're being a bad bird. I'll chuck you downstairs. Stop it. I don't got time for you. I don't have time for your bullshit. Don't you nip at me. You're such a brat. You're such a cutie patootie brat. You're such a brat. Anyway, or like researcher injected himself with something and it worked okay on him, but not on everybody else. I don't know. Whatever. Following without asking questions. Okay. I was a little late for that realization. It wasn't like I could go back. If I wanted to save Lizzie, this was my only option. If that means saving Lizzie's life, then I don't care if I have to team up with the enemy. I gazed at Moravia ahead of me. She had taken Lizzie from Rio and was now carrying her. Moravia walked with light steps, unbothered by Lizzie's weight. There was no way a regular human could carry another grown person so effortlessly. How long are we going to keep walking, anyway? We've been walking for ages, but no signs of civilization appeared on the horizon. How long would it take to see another man-made object? It's so fast out here. As I was starting to realize how enormous the world really was. I thought Theta was plenty big, but it was nothing compared to the outside. I like how she's like, I can't see another man-made object. I see like an entire fucking city back there. Howdy! Whoa! I like how his sprite literally just slid the fuck up in the screen. It's so funny. I thought Yukonami was walking in front of me, so when he popped up and thrust his face in mine, I yelped in shock.
You're looking up, down, all around. What's up?
I was just thinking how huge the outside world is. This is my first time leaving Theta. There was no sense in hiding it, so I told him exactly what was on my mind. Yukonami made a face as if unimpressed.
Seriously? You know nothing about life outside those stuffy colony walls? Sheesh. No wonder the outside world seems big.
Yeah, I can't even tell up from down.
What? You don't know the difference?
Of course I know, it's just a figure of speech. I'm saying I know nothing about the outside world.
I feel sorry for you.
I blinked, my jaw falling open slightly in surprise. What makes you say that?
Do you even get how tiny and cramped Theta is? You're like an animal that was raised in a cage. But hey, you came out of your cage and you're doing just fine. Take care and don't get lost.
Having said his piece, Yukonami skipped off to catch up with Moravia. Raised in a cage. Huh. He wasn't too far off the mark, to be honest. His manner of speaking was direct, but he wasn't being malicious or offensive. And when I gave some deeper thought to what he said, a wave of emotion hit me hard. After many hours of walking, a colony's dome broke over the horizon. It's a colony, right? It looks like it's in bad shape. Is it abandoned? As I gazed at the ruined colony, Moravia lifted a hand and pointed. That's our colony, Tau. Your colony? You mean that's where the Vectors live? Moravia nodded with the air of someone being forced to state the obvious. Yep. Humans lived there some time ago. When it was abandoned, we snagged it. You and Lizzie are welcome to settle in Tau. It's not like going back to Theta is an option, right? Right. Thanks. That's when I truly realized I'd never be able to go back to my old life. It hurt deeply. At the same time, I was relieved I had somewhere new to live. Still, I was going through a complex range of emotions. That much was certain. The colony's original water, plumbing, and electrical systems are still operational. I think you'll find it quite comfortable here. Sorry, Bird, I'm having to adjust the blanket that is, like, sitting onto the side. Like, that sits on the side of my, like, chair over here. And, like, so I'm, like, moving it around, and the bird's like, the fuck are you doing? I'm gonna throw it on top of you, is what I'm gonna do.
He's like, what? I know, you don't like being... Some birdies like to snuggle inside people's clothes and in pockets and in hoods and in blankies. You don't like that.
Which is weird, because you used to shove yourself under blankets. You did, because one time I lost you. Probably told this story before. I seriously lost him. You know, he was like, you know, in the house, and I was, you know, whatever, doing stuff, and then all of a sudden I was looking for him. He's not in his cage. He's not, this was my first apartment, like when I first got him. And I didn't have a real couch, I had a futon. So, you know, like futons kind of have angled backs. So, like, the top of it was against the wall, or it was like a blanket up there, and like, you know, plushies and stuff. And then, like, obviously, like, if you look at it from the side, it's a triangle between the wall, the back of the futon, the floor type of, you know what I mean? That's important. Like, not like a normal couch, which goes straight up back against the wall. So I'm looking for him, freaking out. He's not answering like a cat, you know, not answering, calling his name, nothing. I'm ripping pillows and blankets off the couch because I think, oh my God, I was laying on the couch and leaning against pillows. He must have gotten under there and I squished him or something. I'm pulling the teddies off the couch. I grab the blanket that's on the back of the fucking futon. I grab it and pull it off. The bird goes flying because he was bat birding underneath there. So he was on the blanket behind the couch, like the futon back, snuggled up behind, like against the like back of the futon and the blanket, like in between them, like in a little fucking bird tent. Scared the fucking bejesus out of me. So that's actually probably why he doesn't like to hide in blankets, because he's like, the one time I did that when I was just a baby, I got yeeted across the fucking room. He went flying, like literally like flying, so he was fine. Like he didn't like hit a wall or anything like that. Like, but it's probably scared the fucking shit out of him. Scared the shit out of me. But now he will not go near, like he'll step on blanket, like, but even like blankets in my room, like that's on the end of my bed and stuff, like he'll be on those, that's fine. He likes to sit on towels in the bathroom. He'll snuggle with his stuffed animals. But if I'm sitting there and I got a blanket on me on the couch, he doesn't want to be on the blanket or in the blanket or near it. He's like, no, so I have to kind of move the blanket and like, okay, I got it on my arm if my arms are cold, but I have to leave like my chest or shoulder so that he can snuggle on me. On my shirt, he won't snuggle on the blanket. I don't know if it's just he really hates the color of the blanket or what. Like, I don't know. You get covered up with blankets every night, but I don't know what it is, why you don't like blankies. They're soft. This one's soft. Actually, don't touch this one, because I don't need you, like, chewing it all up.
It's my nice blankie.
One of them. Got a whole bin of blankies that it's like nobody's allowed to touch, so all right, I'll pet you. Don't bite me, though. Anyway. Wow, so you actually live here? Like, people? I muttered my thoughts aloud. It was hard for me to picture the otherworldly Moravia and Yukonami doing normal human things. Yukonami turned around and looked at me with a disgruntled expression on his face. I mean, that was really insulting what we just said.
What? Are we not allowed to live like people? You're making fun of us, aren't you?
What? No, not at all. But I wasn't sure how to explain what I meant. My words stuck in my throat and I hesitated. When I thought about my interactions with Yukonami since leaving, I realized he had major mood swings. I wasn't sure what triggered them. Should I try to explain what I meant? Or will that just annoy him further? Still, keeping quiet gives off the wrong impression. As I grappled with myself, Moravia threw me a lifeline. Yukonami, there will be plenty of time to play with Spacey going forward. Right now we need to get back to Tau. You might not be tired, but I am. Yukonami's expression dialed down to neutral. Moravia's words clearly had an effect on him.
All right. Point noted.
I was surprised at how quickly Yukonami obeyed Moravia's instructions. I didn't think Yukonami was the type to obey others. I guess I was wrong. What kind of relationship do those two have anyway?
Well, I'll go on ahead and make sure we're all set. Catch you later.
Yukonami dashed off towards Tau. Within moments, he was out of sight. Hey, Moravia, Yukonami really respects you, doesn't he? Well, we go back a long way. Moravia sounded wistful, as if she was recalling events from a long time ago. So funny to be like, oh, is he like a boyfriend? She's like, what? They go back a long way, huh? Almost sounds like a normal human friendship. Up until this point, I considered Moravia and her comrades to be vectors, albeit sentient ones. I never made any attempt to get to know them. But we also know, like, they just said, like, that before. Okay, here's me calling her, like, sharp as a wet noodle, even though I've had my moments, literally earlier, with Rio not wearing a suit. Anyway, but that vectors were once humans, so it's like, yeah, we're calling them vectors, like, wow, it's like they're sentient ones. Like, well, yeah, because they were humans once. They just didn't fully transform into the monsters we know as vectors that don't have that human sentience. You know what I mean? Like, okay, Lizzie's gonna transform and she's gonna be just like animal brain over here. But like, Yukonami and Hyuga are still like kind of half and half. They might have abilities like vectors and like strength and whatever, but they still have their original, like, Yukonami and Hyuga probably look exactly in their human form like they did when they were human. You know what I mean? So, like, they're kind of like a cross between. But also, vectors are just fully transformed humans, so whatever. But since it seemed we'd be living together from now on, I needed to start making an effort. They've been fighting since day one, but I should try to see things from their perspective more. They did save Lizzie's life, after all. I really hope Lizzie wakes up soon. Welcome to Tau. Wow, so this is where you all live. I couldn't help but gawk and wonder. I never visited any colony outside of Theta. I was surrounded by crumbling ruins. All around me, everything was in a state of decay. It was a ghost town, the exact opposite of Theta. I couldn't believe the water and electricity were still operational. I walked down the street behind Moravia and spotted vectors lumbering here and there, and my bird is literally like, "Ooh!" Heard the vectors freaking out. But when there were birdies chirping, you ignored them? The vectors, they're completely docile. It's kind of weird to not be attacked by them. Speaking of, Yukonami said that people who were attacked by vectors turn into vectors themselves. Were they all once human too? An uneasy, prickly feeling rose up in my chest.
Moravia, everything's ready.
I looked over and saw Yukonami waving. Hyuga stood beside him, clearly annoyed. If Hyuga's here, then that must mean dinner's ready. Moravia gently passed Lizzie off to Rio, who gathered her in his arms. First off, Lizzie needs to get to bed. I'll explain everything to Hyuga. Rio, be a gentleman and show the ladies their rooms.
All right.
Rio started walking, clearly confident about where he was headed. He shot me a glance as he passed.
And come on, this way.
Right. He headed off in the opposite direction from where Yukonami and Hyuga had come from. I hurriedly followed along. We wound up at a building that was in good condition, at least compared to the others. Apparently, it had been rebuilt to some degree. When I entered, I immediately learned it was much cleaner than the other ruins, too. It's tidy and well kept. I wasn't expecting that. Really? Because it doesn't exactly look... I mean, yeah, the cracks and stuff, because it's old, but, like, there's grass growing along that wall back there and by the stairs here, and, like, this does not look that tidy or well kept, is all I'm saying. I decided to keep my thoughts to myself. I didn't want to repeat of putting my foot in my mouth like I had with Yukonami earlier. I'm not even aware I'm doing it. Thoughtless remarks about how they live just sprang to mind. It's really rude of me.
You should find all your basic amenities here, and take whichever room you want, and feel free to use whatever you find in the building.
Going by Rio's manner of speaking and his knowledge of where everything was, it was clear he visited this place frequently. Take whatever room you want, except for that one, that's mine. Well, I'm taking that one. I'm just kidding. Not yet. Rio entered one of the many empty rooms and gently laid Lizzie down on the bed inside. We've been on the move for quite a while, but Lizzie should be able to get some rest now. Is Lizzie all right?
She had an antibody shot before leaving Theta, so she should wake up pretty soon.
Really? Phew, that's good. I wasn't sure what an antibody shot was exactly, but it sounded like some kind of medicine. First and foremost, I was happy to hear that Lizzie would be waking up soon. Where was Lizzie before all this? She wasn't in a hospital, was she? Rio's answer was prompt and short.
She was in the research district's restricted zone.
Why there, of all places? I heard that people who were attacked by vectors turned into them. Is that true? And if so, do the researchers know about it?
And that's not really something I can tell you. I can tell you this much, though. There's no way those researchers don't know what the vectors truly are.
I nodded thoughtfully as I digested Rio's words. I get it. Yeah. I felt like I touched on something vast and dangerous, but I had no idea what. The commander said he's affiliated with the research district. He must have known about Lizzie, but even then... Rio, I should have said this earlier, but thanks so much for saving Lizzie. I bowed my head like I did with Moravia earlier.
No thanks necessary. I just felt like helping out.
So are you friends with the Vectors then? I tried to phrase my question as respectfully as possible. As possible. I was in Rio's debt after all.
I'm not their friend, but I'm not their enemy. We just share mutual interests.
But that means you're affiliated with them even though you support the Blooms. Does the commander know about all this? So he's like a double agent. Fun.
Who can say?
Rio's vague answer was irritating in the extreme. I needed something more concrete from him, but before I could press the issue...
Hey, you gonna eat in here?
The door swung open suddenly, and Yukonami poked his head around the doorframe.
I'm leaving now. Bring her food to her, will you?
I don't recall agreeing to take orders from you.
Rio ignored Yukonami's protests and looked at me.
If you need help, just ask one of the others. I'm off now.
With that, Rio got up and left before I could even respond. When Yukonami and I were alone, he turned to me. He peered at my face, then beamed. I do like that Rio's like, who knows? Whatever. And he's just being vague and nonchalant and not answering because he can't. Some of the things that we're asking are things that you're going to find out toward the end. You know what I mean? You can't find out now, so. But I like, instead of her just being like, oh, whatever, and not asking these questions, she asked, and he's like, who's to say? I can't tell you that. And he's just being vague and, like, obnoxious about it, but it's for game purposes and plot purposes, you know? Huh. Even though I was thoughtless earlier, he doesn't seem the least bit angry anymore. It's probably because he forgot. His charming smile was infectious. I felt myself softening up towards him. Look, she's already fallen for him. When he smiles like that, he comes across as any regular boy. It's a far cry from the grimace he wears when he's fighting. I knew it wasn't smart to drop my guard. Until very recently, we'd been bitter enemies, but his smile was breaking down my defenses. Yukonami, how old are you? I asked the question as soon as it came to mind.
In years? I don't know, really. No one's ever told me. Pretty sure I'm older than you, though.
From the way he speaks and acts, I thought he was my age or younger. But maybe he's actually older than he looks. Yukonami seemed excited by my question. He leaned forward expectantly.
Hey, wanna know some stuff about me?
Sure, I guess so. I feel like sure is the right answer. Yeah, like, you know what I mean? Because we're trying to romance him now, so. Sure, I'd like that. It was an honest answer. I was curious, after all. That said, I had an underlying reason for answering the way I did. Going by our interactions thus far, I think Yukonami prefers direct questions to wishy-washy attempts to sugarcoat what I want to ask.
You really want to know about me?
Yukonami's eyes sparkled in delight, and I knew my hunch had been correct. Really, I mean it. Tell me about yourself. If I buttered him up nicely, I'd have a chance at getting some vital information. It was a sensible plan, but I still felt a deep pang of guilt for deceiving him.
So, what do you want to know?
So for starters, you're a Vector?
Of course I'm a Vector. So are Moravia and Hyuga.
So you're all... I stopped myself mid-sentence. Yikes, that was close. If I suggested they're Vectors who look like humans, he might get upset again. So are there other Vectors who look like you three? And think and talk and stuff?
Nope. As far as I know, we're the only ones in Tao who can do that kind of thing.
It's weird because... You're Vectors, yeah. Him and Hyuga, right? But he said Moravia. But Moravia is a magical girl like us. So, whatever it is that turns certain people into quote-unquote Vectors/monsters is probably the same thing, air quotes around that, because I don't like that turned us all into magical girls, you know, or enabled us. So it's like, it's just a matter of some people are able to harness this ability or whatever. It's, you know what I mean? Like, like mutated genes, like in X-Men, you know what I mean? Like, oh, your genes mutated and now you have magical abilities, and some people your genes mutated and now you have cancer and you're gonna die, you know? Like, so it's whatever this thing is, it's a mutated gene or something that some of us ended up being able to transform into magical girls and use abilities, right? And other people turned into like Hyuga and Yukonami are like part vector, and then some people straight up just turn into monsters. Like, it's probably all the same damn thing. It's not like, oh, we're like three. No, it's all, you know what I mean? It's the same, whatever the hell they're injecting people with. So they did some kind of science experiments, and they're like, hey, we have this thing, and like, maybe they perfected it a little or whatever, but it was probably something, if you think about it, like, oh, it's something in order to change your DNA or your genes or whatever so we can breathe outside, so that we don't have to live in these little bubbles, so we can go live outside in the environment, so we can, like, a way to faster adapt to the environment outside, as opposed to just over generations, hundreds, thousands of years adapting to our environment. We're going to rush it, science, adapt to our environment so we can expand and live outside again. In just what was toxic air for humans, we'll be able to breathe it now because we'll be enhanced humans, right? But then it was like, ah, shit, we turned us into monsters! But either some of us have something else in us that takes whatever they injected us with and turns us into half-vectors / magical girls, or it's different strains of things. Like, there's different strains of the flu, whatever. You know what I mean? Where they're like, we injected some people and fuck, they turned into monsters, and then we tried something else, and they turned into they're half vectors, and then these people turned into magical. You know what I mean? Like, they're trying to quote unquote perfect the formula. So it's like 3 different stages of the formula type of a thing. But it's still all a way to be able to breathe outside in our environment or whatever, you know? Because we can all, in our forms, the vectors can straight up breathe outside. Yukonami and Hyuga don't have to transform to do it because they're more on the monster vector side. Moravia is a magical girl, transforms, can breathe outside just like we can, and the Blooms. So we're technically vectors, we just haven't caught on to that yet. Like, because vectors are just other form of human. We're just in, I want to say different stages, but it's not like we're going to then progress, turn into Yukonami Hyuga, where we're more monster when we transform, and then we're going to straight up be monsters. It's just like, again, like different type of injection they gave us or whatever, you know what I mean? Something like that. Something like that. Science experiment gone wrong, but side effect was, you know, or there's some kind of weird genetic thing where they injected certain people and we're like, oh, I turned into a magical girl. And they're like, oh, well, that's cool. You know what I mean? It's something like that. Anyway. I don't know if I read that. She had asked, you know, are there other vectors who look like you and whatever. Nope. As far as I know, we're the only ones in town who can do that kind of thing. How long have you been living here? Since way back. Well, that's vague. Just want to know how many years he's been here, but I don't want to offend him by asking the wrong thing. How long have you been hanging around with Moravia and Hyuga then? Since Moravia came here, I've been with her the whole time. The words came here had significance. So in other words, they came here from someplace else? Yukonami spoke up before I could confirm. Hyuga came along later. I picked him up. You picked him up? Yukonami's choice of words was odd. At the same time, they confirmed all of them had come to the colony from other places. What do you mean by you picked up Hyuga? It's exactly what it sounds like. He was sprawled out on the ground, bleeding like heck. I picked him up off the ground and brought him home. I got Moravia to help me fix him up, and he's lived with us ever since. It sounds more like Yukonami saved him than simply picked him up. Yeah, but Yukonami's a little bit of an idiot. Like, he's a simple boy. Which is usually like a little bit of an idiot, but Yukonami seemed to regard the world from a skewed point of view compared to humans. Then again, my idea of normal was null here. I realized I needed to keep an open mind. Do only vectors live in Tau? Mostly. Mostly? So not everyone here is a vector? I was puzzled for a moment, but then the realization hit me. I get it. He doesn't count me as a vector, that's why he said mostly. Rio seemed to go back and forth between the colonies due to his support role for the Blooms, so he wouldn't be considered a resident of Tau. I decided to ask Yukonami about Rio. Does Rio come here often?
He drops by now and then. He brings us most of our amenities. I can't help but notice your questions are getting us off the topic of me.
I like his pouty sprite. I like his pouty sprite because, like, his eyes are really fucking pretty in it. Like, they're beautiful. And he's like, how dare you ask about someone else? I notice that your topic of conversation is not speaking of moi anymore. And darling, I'm going to need you to I'm going to need you to get back on topic. Anyway, you know what I mean? What? Have they? I mean, they're not direct questions about Yukonami, but I guess they do involve things around him. I think he wants to be the center of the discussion. All right, I'll ask a very Yukonami-centric question. So, Yukonami... Oh! My stomach! That growl sounded like a wild animal trying to get out of a cage.
All right, food.
The rumbling of my belly seemed to jostle Yukonami's memory. He hurried to the door. Here's the thing that I've noticed, though. Yukonami does not seem to have a sprite that has puppet. He does not have puppet sprite. So all I'm saying is, why did they do better with Yukonami than they did with our boys, our Bloom boys, okay? The Bloom boys all have a sprite that has like a weird shadow or something that gives them puppet look, you know? And Yukonami doesn't so far. I've yet to see that. Like, the shadow by his nose and everything is very small. Everybody out, like, is it like he's got he's got a more delicate little nose. Yeah, but when you did that on Mihaya, it's like, why does he have a scarecrow nose? Like, the shadowing was awkward and puppet-like. And Kamui was because he had the open mouth sprite with no teeth and it was very bizarre. But, like, Yukonami doesn't seem to have those. So it's like, bravo, because you at least didn't give him a creepy puppet sprite. He's got goofy sprites, but, like, that's him just with his goofy faces. But, like, he doesn't have a creepy puppet one, so I'm gonna give them an A+ for that. Like, this one's like a little goofy, you know, because he's got a giant-ass smile, but it's like, he's a little goofy, you know?
I'll bring it on up. You wait right there.
He left without waiting for a response, but, like, in a Kamui sprite, that would be no teeth, and you'd be like, what the fuck? That was beyond embarrassing. My stomach might as well have barked out its demands to be fed. But Yukonami didn't seem to care much, which was the only saving grace about this fiasco. Maybe vectors don't care about rumbly tummies. He sure did talk, though. If I can stay on his good side, I can probably get tons more information from him. I heard a muted moan and realized it had come from Lizzie. Lizzie, you're awake! Thank goodness! Is she gonna manage to, like, not be a full-on vector? Because then that... Oh, dude! Lizzie opened her eyes a bit as I rushed over to her bedside. Where am I? Lizzie's eyes focused on me as she tried to sit up. Panicked, I gently pushed her back down. Take it slow, Lizzie. You need to rest. Just lie down for now. If she only turns into, like, a half vector, or, like, doesn't turn at all, this is going right back to what I said earlier. Like, if she doesn't die in the bad guy route, like, it's gonna be that, oh my god, this moral conundrum. Like, in the good guy route, she dies. We have to kill her. But in the bad guy route, she survives? Oh, fuck. Like, this is almost better than if she turned into a full-on vector. If she turned into a full-on vector, you'd still have that moral conundrum. But you, again, have that moral thing of, like, she's still a living creature and it's kind of wrong to kill her because she's just trying to, like, exist. But she's not really Lizzie anymore. You know what I mean? But still, what she used, you didn't have to murder. But you know what I mean? Like, but like, oh my god, if she only half turns or doesn't turn at all, oh my motherfucking god. Oh, brilliant. That makes your decision. Like, if you're sitting there like, I don't want to side with the bad guys, you're like, oh, well, fuck now. Like, are they really bad? You know what I mean? And honestly, if they're a science experiment that was then chucked aside, like, yeah, of course you see every reason why they're pissed, you know? As I tried to get Lizzie to settle back, she started to look around the room fearfully. Don't worry, this is a safe place. Just relax. I began explaining things to Lizzie, taking care to stay light on the grisly details so I wouldn't upset her. Unfortunately, I still managed to spark some of her bad memories.
Right. He was attacked by some kind of monster, and then... Oh!
Lizzie, please stay calm. I'm right here with you. I repeated soothing words to Lizzie as I gently stroked her head. I heard a noise behind us and turned to see Yukinami had returned with a tray. I opened my mouth to say his name, but quickly swallowed my greeting. For some reason, as soon as Yukinami saw Lizzie, his smile faded. Oh, he is so mad! He is like, you're taking her attention away from me. Interesting. Because also, like, Lizzie dying is what sparks you to get closer to your boyfriend, right? The guy, whichever one of the blooms you end up with, right? That's kind of like they kind of come up to you because they're kind of friends with you. You don't know their guy form, right? But the guy version of them comes up and is like, oh, yeah, and kind of comforts you and whatever, and that's kind of what sparks that, like, getting close to them. But here you don't have that because, like, they're not going to comfort you about it. But also, you don't know if they're going to lose their vector abilities. I would assume Moravia would, because I would assume she still operates on the same vector level as all of the blooms do, if we're going with that theory, right? But Yukinami and Hyuga are a different level, so they may not lose their vectorness if they fall in love. We'll find out. Interesting. His glare was so icy, I shivered. Did I say or do something to offend him again? But I haven't done anything this time. Nope, Lizzie's awake, so he's mad.
Is she awake?
Oh, yeah, she just woke up. But she seems really weak. I think she needs to rest for quite some time.
I see.
And like this pose of his where he's like looking off to the side is really pretty. Like, he waffles between like some of his sprites. Okay, I guess this one's the puppetiest one. Because like his nose is like tiny puppet nose. But it's not as bad as Kamui or Mihaya, right? Where you're like, super puppet! And I feel like we're dating puppets and it's slightly disturbed. Like this one's like little puppet nose. It's not as troubling to me. But like he goes back and forth between like, he's got super adorable giant eyes, cute boy face. And then he's got like, where his eyes are a little more closed like this, where it's like he's a little more pretty. It's interesting. I like it. He's not my type in general, but when he's got sprites like this, where he's got like the pretty eyes, I'm more into it. It's kind of like that certain sprite of Mihaya's. Like, when you're that sprite, I'm into it because you're beautiful. And then otherwise you're adorable. And then I'm not into it. Yukinami's just the other side of that coin. Neither Yukinami's tone nor words were sharp, but his attitude and tone made it... Well, that's just so weird. Like, his tone and words weren't sharp, but his attitude and tone made it clear he was deeply bothered about something. I get what they're saying, but it sounds awkward.
You'll just leave your dinner here. Bye now.
Yukinami put down the tray, which had 2 dinners on it. Then he left the room. What was all that about? I have no idea what could have put him in such a foul mood. I bet he brought dinner and he brought 2 plates, one for me and one for him, so we can continue talking. But then Lizzie's awake and he's like, okay, yeah, here's your food, I guess, whatever, and then left because he doesn't want Lizzie to take my attention away. He's an attention whore. You've seen that from like every time we went, pay attention to me, you guys aren't looking at me, I'm leaving now. And he gets like very much like he wants someone to pay attention to him. When you're fighting, he's like that, so it makes sense. We're new here, and he's like, ooh, someone new to pay attention to me. And now you're paying attention to that girl? Whatever. Very cat-like.
Phew, it was kind of freaky. That guy, he's a little on the scary side, isn't he?
I don't know if I'd say scary. Seems more like he was annoyed about something. Suddenly I realized I was feeling defensive. He was certainly a formidable foe when we fought. Even now I get the feeling I shouldn't let my guard down around him. And yet, I recalled the innocent smile he flashed just moments ago, and I realized I couldn't simply write him off as scary. I like this. She's kind of like, what? He's not scary. Oh my god, I'm falling for him. She's fallen for him already. Lizzie looked at me, confused.
So you know that guy pretty well?
I wouldn't go so far as to say I know him well, but I guess I know him a bit now. I don't think he's a bad guy. I mean, probably not. I knew my answer didn't inspire confidence, but to be honest, I wasn't sure what else to say. Oh, right. Think you can eat something? This is soup. The soup and bread looks delicious. If you think you can manage, let's have dinner together, okay? Okay, I can try to eat. I helped Lizzie sit up and we began eating dinner together. Wow, the soup is really good. You think Hugo made it? It really is. It's warming me up, too. You can have brought it up here, but he probably didn't cook it right. So then, who did? I love the fact that Tough Boy Hugo might be the... I like it when the tough boys are the cooks. You know what I mean? Lizzie and I chatted while we ate. It's like Ion and Radiant Tail being the chef. He's gentle, don't get me wrong. He's like soft boy inside. But he looks like very intimidating, and then he's like, and then I'm the little chef boy, and you're like, no, you're so adorable. So like Hugo being like, yeah, whatever, tough guy, and then I'm like, well, God, that was careful. Like, you know what I mean? That he's delicate with his food. Love it. Lizzie and I chatted while we ate. I tried to keep the conversation light. To sit and chat with Lizzie like this when not too long ago I couldn't see her at all felt like a miracle, really. Yukonami said that people who are attacked by a vector will turn into one themselves. Maybe Lizzie would also turn into a mindless monster if she hadn't received that antibody shot. It wasn't the commander of the Blooms who saved both Lizzie and me. No, the vectors had saved us. Our enemies. This is what's interesting, you know what I mean? Like the commander didn't have anything to do with it. He doesn't have the choice to say, don't do this. But the researchers could have saved those people, clearly. But they decided not to. Because they wanted to experiment on them, probably. You know what I mean? And that's really interesting. You know? So, like, there's really no... I mean, like, our Bloom's boys, they're good boys. But it doesn't mean that they're on the right side. It's just they themselves are good. And, like, technically, these boys are the bad boys. They're on the bad side. But they're not really... That's not really no bad side. Well, to be fair, both sides are a little gray. You know, there's bad things about them. But, like, I don't think that our Bloom's boys are bad themselves. They're just doing things that you could look at as bad because people are telling them to do it and they don't have a choice. They're not making this choice themselves. It's not like they're saying, yeah, no, fuck them. I know they know they're humans, but they're like, but we can't go against what they're saying. We have to do this because we got to save the other people in the colony. You know, and they think they're making the right choice, and I can't fault their logic. You know what I mean? Like, a monster's coming at you. You know it used to be human. There's 10 other people. Yeah, I'm going to fight the monster. It might have been a human once, but it's not anymore. It's not like I'm going out and being like, all right, let me go find the monster that's just lounging around in the sun and then just beat it to death. That's not what we're doing. They're coming at us. We're attacking them back. You know what I mean? If they didn't come at us, we wouldn't do that. But you also know why this side is going after. It's because the higher-ups turned us into this and then chuck us away like garbage and fuck that shit. You did this to us. Kind of revenge thing. You're like, I can't blame their logic there either, you know? So, like, all of our characters themselves that we're romancing are technically decent in their own way. They're imperfect, but that's part of being a human. Or in this case, a vector, I guess. The past aside, I owed everything to them. I still need to be careful about lowering my guard, but I should get to know them better. I convinced Lizzie to lie back down and rest as soon as we were done eating. I was still worried about her condition. I'm curious. Lizzie fell into a deep sleep as soon as she lay back down. She was clearly exhausted. Her sleep looks much more peaceful now. So much better than when she was sedated. Alright, I'll go clean up these dishes and leave Lizzie to get some sleep. I looked around the building until I found a sink and quickly washed the bowls and tray. I selected the room next to Lizzie's and decided to turn in for the night. Wait. I'm so tired. There's still so much to think about, but for now, it's time to sleep. The next morning, I searched for Yukonami, carrying yesterday's tray. The roaming vectors still set me on edge, but they made no move to attack me. I tried to put them out of my mind. Anyway, if I'm going to live here, I guess I'd better get used to them at some point. I found Yukonami after a brief search. Yukonami's moods change at the drop of a hat. I wonder how he's feeling right now. I mentally prepared myself to handle anything as I headed over to him. I feel like he's going to be excited because we're alone and going to talk to him. Yukonami, thanks for bringing us dinner yesterday.
Huh, spacey.
His face lit up the second he saw me. Told ya. I'd apparently caught him in a good mood.
Did you eat everything?
Yeah, it tasted great, thank you. I just thought I should bring the tray back.
Oh, you even went to the trouble of washing it. I'll put it away. Wait there.
Oh, hold on.
I'll be right back.
Yukonami turned and dashed off before I could stop him. He told me to wait, but I was hoping to get back to Lizzie as soon as possible. I guess I may as well wait. Maybe there's something else he needs me for. I gazed absently at the sky while I waited. Outside, the real sky is terribly overcast, the total opposite of what it looks like in here. Well, this is a colony sky after all. I'm amazed it's still operational given the state this place is in. I let my thoughts wander freely, and before long, Yukonami returned.
Thanks for waiting.
It's fine, but did you need me for something? Yukonami grinned and nodded.
Hey, let's talk some more, okay? I've been thinking, you got like superpowers, right? That sounds really cool. Show me some.
Wow, he's all up in my face. But I think it's just innocent curiosity. Nothing bad. I nodded in agreement. Maybe this was the way to get on friendlier terms with him. All right, but just a little bit.
Woohoo! All right.
But my superpowers are kind of weird. They don't do much if I use them on my own. See, my special power is called Augment. I use it to boost my allies' physical and psychic abilities during battle.
Wow, that sounds really cool. Okay, try using Augment on my power.
Augment your power? I'd seen how Yukonami fights. It seemed he preferred physical attacks over psychic ones. He kicks and punches. If I use Augment on him, he could cause some serious damage. I'll give it a try, but we'll have to move someplace that's more, open. We don't want to damage the colony.
It should be fine to bust up a few things around here. Most of these buildings are trashed anyway.
Oh, well, that's not really the issue here. I wasn't sure how to make him understand, but Yukonami just smiled and shrugged.
Okay, if you insist. If you want a wide open space, we should head outside. Whoa!
Yukonami grabbed my wrist and pulled me along. He never even looked back. He was like a kid dragging along a playmate. Huh. He didn't even ask before he grabbed me. Is he thoughtless or just innocent? I felt exasperated, but it didn't seem like I'd get anywhere if I protested. I just sighed inwardly. I need to transform real quick before we leave the colony, so hang on a sec, okay?
Oh, right. What a hassle.
Yukonami shook his head before he resumed tugging me toward the colony exterior. We reached a suitably empty space outside Tau. This looks like a good place to let it all out.
Come on, let's get to it.
Okay, give me your hands. Yukonami looked at me and I gripped his hands. Here we go! I used my Augment ability on Yukonami. His face immediately lit up as if he could feel its effects coursing through him.
Wow!
What do you think?
What? That's amazing! I can feel power running through me.
Yukonami ran around in circles like a kid with a new toy. Then he jumped high, clearly delighted. I felt like smiling as I watched him. He's so excited. I never expected him to get so much out of it. Now he's like a dog. But a moment later, my smile stiffened ever so slightly.
Yeah! This is amazing!
Yukonami smashed down the wall of a nearby building with an eardrum shattering bang. I'm glad he's having a good time, but he's getting a little destructive. I guess it doesn't matter. It's not like anyone's around to care anyway. As I watched Yukonami's violent frolicking, I spotted movement out of the corner of my eye. Huh? I glanced over and saw a Vector watching us from a distance. There are Vectors outside the colony, too? My body flooded with adrenaline. The Vector never made a move to attack, though. I exhaled and let my shoulders relax. Right. All of the vectors in Tau are docile. Doesn't seem as if the outside vectors are the ones that attack Theta. Nevertheless, I remained a little guarded. Yukonami returned from his Destructathon.
No, it's Vector. Unless you gotten loose again.
Yukonami's words interested me. Gotten loose? Are you saying Moravia is, like, in charge of keeping them?
It's not just Moravia, you know. Sometimes when we take the Vectors to attack Theta, she doesn't even come along.
Now that you mention it, it would probably be hard for one person to control so many Vectors. The Vectors seem to listen to Moravia, but that's not the same thing as her being their keeper. But it's not like the Vectors seem to have any capacity for intelligent thought. Why would they obey Moravia's orders? I somehow drew the attention of the Vector that was watching us, and it started to approach. It lumbered slowly at first, then put on some speed as it made a beeline straight toward me. Is it going to run over and demand pets? And it's going to be like, what? It was totally chill just a minute ago. What's wrong with it?
Oh, that one's taking an interest in you.
Interest? True, I was sympathetic to the Vectors now, but I couldn't just stay put while one ran me over. I steeled myself. Hold off on attacking. Use Augment on Yukonami. I would say hold off on attacking. Because we know they're, like, you know what I mean? We gotta try to trust them. So, yeah, hold off on attacking. The Vector was coming right for me. If I ran, it would give chase without a doubt. I guess attacking is my only choice. Oh, but the Vector was once a human being. That realization planted a seed of doubt in my mind, which made me hesitate to attack. I have no options left. I'll aim for its feet. Maybe I can scare it or make it stumble. Then I'll make a run for it. My mind made up, I rapidly began calculating the best possible time to use my psychokinesis. Yukonami, who was watching me, then quickly stepped forward.
Shh. Guess I got no choice.
Something in his eyes changed, and then... What? Yukonami unflinchingly pummeled the Vector. The attack hit home and the Vector hit the ground. I couldn't believe what I'd just seen. I was shocked into speechlessness. What? No way! I thought you were the Vector's ally! But the Vector was interested in you, and he doesn't like that. Seems a little possessive.
An ally? What's that?
He looked confused. He really had no idea. I wasn't even sure how to answer his question. Explaining allies would be too complicated. Instead, I rephrased my question. Why did you attack that Vector? It was hard to keep my voice steady. If Yukonami knew I was upset, he didn't show it.
Why? That's a funny question. It was coming right for us, yeah? Annoying little fella.
Annoying? I wasn't able to disguise the tremor in my voice this time. Yukonami, he scares me. I'd just been starting to think warmly of him. I had an inkling we'd get along despite his childish, self-centered tendencies. But he just slaughtered a Vector in cold blood as easily as he blinked or breathed. A cold, soulless monster without a scrap of empathy. That was the Yukonami I saw before me right now. It was right when I thought he didn't act his age, but there's more. He's actually like a child. He knows nothing about friendship and allies. He has no sense of right or wrong. He'll take a life without thinking if something annoys him. A child's innocence can be hurtful or dangerous in some contexts. If Yukonami ever felt like it, would he kill me as thoughtlessly as that Vector? That innocent smile of his threw me off guard. I thought he was just childish. I didn't see the truth. Yukonami had wiped off his boyish facade and let me glimpse the horrible thing underneath. I'm wondering if in some of the bad endings, Yukonami will kill us.
Spacey, why are you shaking?
Oh, look, a little CG. It's like, you know, it's actually really cute because he's like, hey, what's up? And you know she's probably terrified, but they don't, like, show it. You know what I mean? Yukonami reached out to stroke my cheek. I jerked back, panicked. Yeah. Yukonami just smiled.
What is it? Are you afraid of me,
He hit the nail right on the head. I felt like he was peering right through me. I'm afraid, or don't say anything. I feel like she would just straight up admit yes. Yeah. I could romance fucking Yukonami like a motherfucker. It's not the claim to fame I want to have, but yeah, I'm afraid. I gave Yukonami a straightforward answer. Scared as I was, I knew he'd want me to be direct. It was too late to put on a front. I was sure he'd see right through it anyway. He might get mad if I tried to fool him. I gave him the right answer, I'm sure of it. Well, according to the guide, yes. Keenly aware of how much danger I was in, I watched Yukonami closely. He looked at me hard, as if analyzing my face. Suddenly, he grinned.
So that's the face you make when you're scared. It's totally hilarious.
His close examination of my face made me shiver. My heart hammered against my ribs. He touched my cheek as if confirming something. His sharp nails prodded my skin. Felt like they could dig into me at any moment. I was sweating.
You can keep your eyes off me. Oh, you can't keep your eyes off me. I have your full attention. I love it.
He was right. I was too scared to look away. But my fear meant nothing to him. He just liked the fact I was paying attention to him. See, that's the thing. The Vector was coming for you. That one's taking an interest in you. And he got jealous. Like, no, wait, you're paying attention to that, not me. And then when Lizzie was awake, you're paying attention to Lizzie, not me. You know what I mean? Yukonami, don't kill Lizzie, because then I can't understand how we would romance you after that. But it made no difference how he got that attention. I had no idea what to say. Yukonami spoke plainly as he held his gaze.
I think I kind of like you too.
His words were friendly, pleasant even. So why did they send a shiver down my spine? I felt like nothing good would come of Yukonami taking a special interest in me.
Let's hang out lots, okay, Spacey?
Creepy. I've got a bad feeling about all this. Some guarded corner of my mind told me I'd handled Yukonami's question badly. There was no malice in Yukonami's gaze. Instead, he looked at me like he was sizing up a brand new toy. I think it's funny that they word that as if like, oh my god, wait, I answered his question wrong, and you're like, oh shit, did we make a bad choice? Are we getting a bad end? And it's more like, no, we're gonna get the good end where we romance him. And that's questionable. Like, you know what I mean? Like, that's so funny. They're like, I did this all wrong. I don't know about this. I'm stuck romancing him now. And it's like, it's not really how you should go about it, but you know, valid, sure. Instead of being like, wow, he kills monsters that used to be human without a second thought. That's hot. You know what I mean? Because that's not in her character. So I think it fits where she's like, okay, shit. And then she's going to kind of like, we'll warm up to him. You know what I mean? At least with the Blooms boys so far, it's been like, I'm not sure why Kamui's being friends with me, but like, okay, he's nice, sure. And I can use someone to talk to and like whatever. And we're like, I think they're good guys. You know what I mean? Like, we were just like, I'm going to make them cookies. I'm going to do nice things. And now with Yukonami, we're like, I regret all my life choices right now, you know? Which fits her character, you know? It's going to be interesting to watch this relationship happen, so. I knew now that it was too late to go back. Yep. Yes, it is. But anyway. So I'm going to wrap this part up here. I will see you guys next time. Remember to give the video a big thumbs up and subscribe to see more.